Moin moin ladies and gentlemen, Donspektor here. Today, finally, with another review. And I have for you the Xduoo MT602. And as it says here, high performance tube headphone amplifier. Which is technically almost correct, but just almost. Because this is not a pure tube amplifier, this is a tube hybrid. Meaning as pre-stage it has tubes and as main stage it has good old solid state. So yes, and I gotta be honest here, I am a tube noob, right? I have heard a few tube amplifiers in audio stores and at friends, but I haven't actually ever owned one. And I also wasn't able to just use my headphones and my library to just try things out for a few hours. So this is technically my first ever like really tube device. And if it ignites my spark for tubes or my interest in tubes and how well it does generally, yeah, I'll be discussing in this review. And of course, I'll be starting off with the unboxing. And as you can see, I already have the box here. It's almost cube-shaped, I would say. And yeah, you do have this like Xduoo pattern. And it's rather thin cardboard, but for like 100-ish euros, what this thing would cost after importing, it's totally fine. Yeah, opening it up, you can already see you're greeted by the tubes here. And the foam it comes with is pretty solid, that is pretty thick and also like really dense foam. So yeah, pretty decent. Then opening it up, yeah, there's directly your amplifier, which I removed, or at least try to remove now. Yep. And beneath that there would be the power brick in here. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to remove, you can see, so that happened live here. Yes, you can see I already tore it apart a bit before. Here would only been the power brick and the manual. And an additionally 6.3mm adapter to 3.5mm. So yeah, that's pretty much bug standard and like nothing special, even for that price I would say. So yes, man, yeah, after we go to the unboxing, let's go to the actual build quality here. And I can already sum it up, the MT602 is really well built. For like 100-ish euros, this is really well built. It does feel really weighty to the hand. Just compared to my main amp, which is an SP200, this thing feels definitively more solid. And even if you go in details, as we can see here in the corners, the gaps are really small and you can barely touch them with the finger or even the fingernail. And then besides, you do here have the venting holes, because yeah, this thing obviously gets warm, it's a tube, right? And yeah, you have 4 screws on the left side to hold the side panels here, 4 screws at the other side to hold the side panels, and then at the back there are again 4 screws to hold the back panel. The rest is just one solid piece of aluminium or steel, I'm not entirely sure here, but it's, as you can see, it's relatively thick, about like 1mm all through. So yes, then let's shortly look over at the bottom. And here you have 2 of these like rubber feet. So yeah, there's a tiny bit of additional like spacing beneath, but it's really not much. As you can see, it's a millimeter at best probably. Okay, so yeah, as I said, general build quality, even at the top here, the aluminium gets a bit thinner. It's, I'm not sure if you can see it, you cannot press that. It's still so solid and so thick. This is a really well built box for 100-ish euros. And yeah, overall, I would say this is probably better built than my SP200. And yeah, I think as next chapter, I go over buttons and connectivity. And here, let me say, I try to keep this short. So if you want to know more, I want to refer you to my written review, which I'll be linking in the video description. So yes, as connection, let's go to the back first. You do get aux in, yeah, and aux out for like preamping. And of course, there's the power connector here. As you've seen on the box, I did have the EU plug, which also does work totally fine. Yeah, one short mentioning about the power supply. That is external, and it is like, yeah, laptop sized, I would say. So if you have like a medium sized laptop, for example, like an XPS 13 or so, that would have a power supply that is maybe a bit bigger or a bit smaller depending on your laptop. But it's like a power supply size for a laptop. So yes, so on the back, that's pretty much it. And when we come to the front, here we do have a 6.3mm out and 3.5mm out and an aux in here for 3.5mm, which does work totally fine. I did try it out with my smartphone and had no complaints here. Then let's go to the buttons. The power switch here is really, it's hard to press. And it does make a pretty satisfying click though. Let me just get it closer to the microphone. Yeah, the click definitely is satisfying. And when you talk about satisfying, the knob. Oh yes, that knob. It is a bit heavy to rotate, at least in my unit here, but that makes it feel like quality and also like really precise. And there's a small problem I want to say with this amp, which I come later on, which has to do with volume. But yeah, otherwise, this is a really well-built device overall, and I think also the buttons are nice. So then let's go to like drivability before I come to tube swapping, because yeah, even if I'm a tube noob, I've obviously read something up and I know you need to do some tube swapping. And yeah, so then let's talk about the general like sound. And I also want to say like what the problem with this device for me at least is. Yeah, this has, I think, what was it, like 1300 milliamperes of power for I think 32 ohm, which is quite a lot for a device that small. If I get a ruler, let me just do that. Yeah, if I get a ruler, you can see this thing is 12 centimeters wide, about 12 centimeters wide. It's like 7.5 depth, and in height, it's like 4 centimeters. So that's a really small device for the power it packs. And yeah, that also makes the first problem, like if you want to turn this switch, you will most of the time just move the box completely away. You have to really hold tight onto the box to not just push it off your table. Yeah, second problem, as I said, is with drivability, because there's so much power in this little thing. Most of the time, with most of the like more efficient headphone, which would be the thing you want to be using with a hybrid tube amp, or you should be using with a hybrid tube amp, is I'm about here, and you can see volume, it's like, yeah, maybe 10% or so, and going just a bit up would instantly make it really loud and unpleasant to listen to. And yeah, the solution for that is, if you have a DAC which has a volume, which my SU head fortunately has, you can just turn that down, and then you won't have this problem. But if you don't have that, I think I would not recommend the MT602, just because it's so finicky with the power. Even if this is precise to set, you just have like 1 or 2 millimeters of well listenable volume, and that instantly gets too loud. Okay, yeah, when we talk about amplification, as I said, this thing has a preamp, or it could be used as a preamp, and the main volume here also does like set the preamping volume. So if you, like me, you try it out on your main amplifier as preamp, you will have to set it to like, yeah, something like that, and medium-sized volume, and then increase the other volume on your main amp. That does work pretty well, and it also does work over the aux in here, so I didn't have any problems in there. Also, when we talk about output, the 6.3 and 3.5 millimeter, they have the exact same volume. I did try it out with a few headphones, with the Elysia, with the Tiger, with my Zandaras, and also to try a few IEMs, but yes, as I said, with volume here, I would not recommend amps for this, not IEMs for this amp. Okay, yeah. Then as next chapter, before I just give you a short summary how this thing sounds, let's talk about tube rolling. And yeah, I'm not sure if this is visible to the cam, but I do have Muller tubes mounted here at the moment, because as many people already said to other like tube amps or hybrid tube amps, the stock tubes it comes with, they just suck. That's how it is. Sometimes it even felt like there's no tubiness at all in some songs. Just some songs, of course, but unfortunately, it really is not that good, and in almost all sound aspects. But if you do have a few tubes lying around, or like me, you're just interested and you buy a few tubes for tube rolling, yeah, I think you can get really happy with the MT602, which is also, I'm going to talk about the conclusion later on, why I would recommend it. So yes, if you talk about tube rolling here, I did only have the Mullards and a pair of Vauxhalls here. Those are, I think, from the 1960s and Vauxhall from the 1980s. And I do definitely prefer the Mullards here, just because they're even more tubey than the Vauxhalls. So with more tubey, that obviously means it's warmer, it smooths the treble, and you definitely do lose some treble detail, and I also think some extension with the Mullards. But the warmth they add and the soundstage you lose, you do get a bit of like additional intimacy for the vocals. And oh my god, the first time I put on all of it in my hands from S&M2 for Metallica here, for the live version, on the Elysias, it just, it really, so nice to listen to. And if you go from there, from the Mullards to the Vauxhalls, you do get, I think, a bit better treble detail, not as smooth. You do get a bit less warmth, I would say a bit worse extension in the low end region, and overall a bigger soundstage. And yeah, I think those are definitely the, I would say, more agreeable all-rounder tubes. But for what I wanted to have, and I wanted to have tubiness, right? I wanted to have warmth, I wanted to have smoothness, I wanted to have a feeling of tubes. Those definitely do meet my personal taste here more than the Vauxhalls. But let me say again, I think Vauxhalls are the better all-round tubes. So yes, and the stock tubes, yeah, they do nothing really well. They never have a relatively good soundstage, they don't have a good warmth, they do not have the best extension in both ends. It's alright, but nothing more. So yes, and yeah, sound-wise, as I said, this thing does, I think, compete in the 100-ish euro region, at least when we talk about detail, about dynamics, about imaging, about layering. It does everything reasonably well. It doesn't do them worse than I expected, but that obviously depends on the tubes. And as I said, I do prefer the Mullards here best, but I think those definitely do not have the treble detail that other tubes will have here. And I think also overall, yeah, it's a tube hybrid, right? So you should not expect the most detailed and the most microdynamic focused representation here. But it does do everything to a degree where I would say, yeah, this is definitely worth like 100 euros. And that already brings me to my conclusion. Would I recommend the MT602? And I think the simple answer is, it depends. First, if you just want to use this thing stock, like literally bull stock like it is with the stock tubes, no, I would not recommend the 602 here. Just because the stock tubes, while not being terrible, they do not give you the real tubey feeling that I think tube amps should have, at least for me as a tube noob, right? It should feel warm, it should feel smooth, it should feel like nice to ears. And the stock tubes don't give you that. Also, they don't have the biggest soundstage, so yeah, really stock, I would not recommend this amp. It has enough power for almost everything, right? It has from like 16 here to like 600 ohm, it's absorbed what those claim. And when I tried this thing with my self-built headphones, which have like 300 ohms, with my Tigers, it did work fine. Also with my Sandaras, it did work totally fine. And also the DT1990s, everything worked fine, so I think you are good there. But seriously, 600 ohms? I think you probably need a bit more power than that to drive 600 ohms. And yeah, the second part of the it depends, if you are already having a tube collection, or you like me, you actually don't mind in buying a few tubes, well, yeah, I would recommend the 602. It does sound appropriate to like 100-ish euros. It is really well built. It does have a nice knob. It does have a really well made button. And it does have enough power to drive any headphone, or most of the headphones, like 95%, you will ever plug in here. So yeah, if you want to switch the tubes, I would say this is a recommended app. A recommended amp, not app. Yes, and with that, I say, hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any questions, if you have critique, if you have any other feedback, please leave a comment. And with that, Donspektor out!